If you have a home garden or community garden and like leaf lettuce, kale, spinach, and collard greens, well, now is the time to start planting them. Our next guest says these vegetables actually grow better in cooler temperatures and believes they taste better too. David Seward is head of the horticulture program at J. Sargent Reynolds Community College. Kind of like family here at CBS 6. Your dad, Harvey, worked here for 50 years.
Yes, well, felt like it.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
He was. But you got some great tips for us today. The cold weather today, you think summer's over, growing season's over, but actually now is the perfect time to plant some things.
It is. Most of these cool season vegetables like it when it stays below 65. They get a little stressed when it gets in those higher temperatures. So I think we're finally there. Things like the collards and kale, Swiss chard, and really this is a really showy plant for ornamental use as well. There's ornamental cabbages and kales that can do very well for just the look of the landscape. These are not very tasty though.
They look very pretty though.
Yes.
And when you put these out, how long will it take them to actually grow into something that we can eat?
Maybe 30 days. Most of them, if you're eating the foliage, this one 40-day turnaround time from seed to harvestable plant.
And that was another question I wanted to ask you. Do we want to start these from seed or do we want to start them from a planting?
It's probably a little late to start from a seed. What you're really probably trying to do is find little transplants about this size or even this size. These will give you can harvest leaves throughout the season. A lot of them will last even through the winter as long as we don't have a really severe winter. Like last winter, it was very calm and easy for these plants to get through the winter and be harvestable all through the winter.
30, 40 days growing time on these. We want to get them in. What are they doing in the ground right now? What do we need to do to keep them growing and make sure that we get some kind of harvest?
Well, you prepare it like you would normally prepare a garden. Break it up a little bit, add some slow release fertilizer, and get these planted. And within a couple of weeks, they'll start pushing out new leaves, and you can start harvesting the old leaves.
What about watering?
Watering probably once a week. Mother Nature this time of year takes care of it very well for us, so that it's not nearly as critical as it is during the summer.
Yeah, because we think everything's going dormant, but then we can actually get things to grow.
Right. It's different types of plants, and a lot of these just prefer the cooler temperatures that we're now in.
Now, we're at about 45-ish degrees right now. Is that too cool? Is that optimal? Because it's going to be back toward 80 by the end of the week.
They'll adjust. 45 is a really good temperature. Light frosts don't bother these at all, so they're going to enjoy growing all the way through November into December, depending on the weather.
Now, do we have to do any kind of protection, like covering with mulch or anything to keep the moisture in? Or?
It's always nice to mulch the root zone of the plant just to hold the moisture and keep the weeds down. But overall, these are just good, strong garden plants that would be fine without much extra care.
All right, that's the edible stuff. And then we've got an ornamental cabbage. Let's move into something a little bit more decorative.
Well, there's also, different things you might be wanting to plant in containers or in the landscape. And with the cooler temperatures, the soil is still warm, and so you end up with perfect planting conditions. Fall really is the best planting time in Richmond. And so you've got things like, this is a small, you wouldn't recognize it as such, but it's a honeysuckle. It's called Bagason's Gold. And it's evergreen, looks really nice in containers or in the ground. A couple of different euphorbias. This one's a dark leaf called Blackbird. This one's called Shorty, but they have yellow flowers in the spring, but they're evergreen. And deer resistance is key as well in a lot of things. Deer are going to like these, and they're going to like the pansies on the far side, but they won't eat snapdragons. So you've got other colorful plants you can use in foliage and textures that you can put into your landscapes.
Depending on where we are. And you got some evergreen here. And these are small right now. How big are some of these going to get?
Most of them are 12 to 24 inches in size. This is a heuchera or a coral bells, and there's lots of different colors. This is another one in the front there. And so those contrasts of colors and textures work really well in containers and in your landscapes.
Yeah, I was going to say these would be perfect because they're not going to overgrow a large container.
Right, exactly. This is a dwarf hinoki false cypress. Only gets about, maybe 5 to 6 feet max, but it'll grow really slowly to get there. So it can be used.
Now, obviously, with the edibles, we're going to try to eat those and harvest them. But with these, are we going to want to take them in when it gets really cold if they're in containers, or are we starting these so that they'll be permanent in our gardens?
Everything here is a permanent plant in the garden, except maybe the snapdragons and the pansies. These will burn back in the winter if it gets really severe, but you get really great fall color. If they burn back, you just trim them back a little bit, and they come back really strong in the spring. So then you get a full complement of the early spring colors. The pansies and violas, those are going to do really well through our winter. Key thing there is to keep them well watered during the winter. You don't think about watering much in the winter, but it is important. But the deer will. It's like a salad bar for deer.
Now, if the deer don't get to them, how long are we going to have flowering on these?
The pansies and violas will last all the way through late spring into May. I like the violas better. They're the ones with the smaller flowers, and they end up handling the heat of the late spring much better than pansies do.
So we actually have some color. Now, you've got a workshop coming up you want to tell us about quickly.
Yeah, we have a community night at our Goochland campus, which is where our program and the automotive program are based. It's on October 30th, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, a lot of different workshops on technology, computers, and gardening, and automotive things, small engine repairs. So it's if you're interested in this kind of material or classes, please come out and visit us that night. It's October 30th, 6 to 8.
And sponsored by J. Sargent Reynolds Community College.
Yes.
All right, David Seward, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
I'm going to go plant some stuff this afternoon. Jessica, over to you.